and welcome to Love Always Self. I'm Shira.
Hi, y'all. I'm Karista, and thank you so much for joining us on this episode of Love Always Self. Welcome. Hello. And we're so glad to have you on today. We kind of want to talk about, I don't know, like the fickle mind. Is that kind of what we landed on?
Yeah. So we're on one of those days again where we just hit record. We got into a conversation. The conversation was a lot about how do you unprogram all the years and decades, if you're in my age group, of learning and teaching yourself to be overprotective of oneself, and everyone's gonna like screw you over and all of that, like unlearning that behavior, that pattern. Or even, while I'm saying that, even just trying to not really like get too far into the stories, the creation of the stories with someone that hasn't given you any reason to produce that story in the first place.
We are really great storytellers.
Oh my gosh, yes,
like
we are.
Lots of ghost stories. That's really what this is. These are old ghosts from past experiences that are coming up and saying, oh, this story is repeating. And yeah, history has a tendency to repeat itself, but that's when we receive lessons and they go unlearned.
Yeah.
So I guess we just wanted to chat about like, how do we navigate that? Whether it's like insecurities coming up, whether it's like angry hits, whether it's whatever it is. I was going to say, what is it? When you get angry in traffic, road rage. There we go.
Road rage.
And so how do we navigate that when we are doing that to ourselves?
Yeah. I mean, from taking it from experience and literally playing the scenario out just 10 minutes ago, if that, the first thought that I had was the awareness of the thought. And so just bringing myself to understand that I'm having the thought in the first place and that the thought came from somewhere. It's being generated from a source, right? And if my thought is about, I don't know, being untrusting, we'll use that as an example. And if I'm being untrusting of somebody else or something of that nature, that thought usually pops in because I have been treated in an untrusting way, right, by somebody else in the past. And even though that's not my current present, I need to acknowledge that it's not my current present moment. And that's not what's going on in my present moment, at least to the best of my knowledge. And then, of course, I'm reverting back into the thought process of, oh, geez, that's me trying to control the future. You know?
I mean, it's definitely an egoic process, this storytelling. And when I say that, like, I'm not saying it that it's bad. It's a natural response to protect your well-being and survive. And it's recognizing, am I really in a place where I need to survive?
Yeah.
Not life or death necessarily, but is my feeling really based in the now and the circumstances that are around me now? Or is this feeling coming up because I've had these past experiences and I'm just nervous and I'm wanting to protect myself and save myself from that pain?
I agree. And those are all like the great questions that you can, as soon as you adapt to being more aware of your thoughts.
And that's the first step, is making yourself aware. And that's probably one of the hardest steps.
It is.
Catching yourself in the moment of creating those stories.
Yeah, it is. Because if you're not paying attention to how you're thinking and how those thoughts are starting to accumulate,
your imagination can start to run wild.
And then that's the story creating process, right? Exactly.
And where I think we run into trouble with this too is we are the creators of our own reality. So what part, if you continue down this storytelling path, what is your part in recreating the history?
Yeah. And, you asked the question, more of a statement, but a question, how is it that we can start to unravel from behaving in that way or from thinking in those ways?
I love that. Sorry.
Yes.
I love that you chose the word unravel, because I was literally thinking about following the string that's attached to that story to the source.
Oh, that's beautiful. I love it. I was getting this like image when I was thinking of unravel of like a ball of yarn, and as you pull it and it just starts pulling in layers off. That's literally like where the word unravel came into my head.
That is also a great analogy, because it's not until you unravel it completely that you see the core source.
Right.
And that is something to consider is the string, does it stop there, or do you keep going deeper?
It's what are those dolls? The Russian dolls. Like every time you take a layer off, there's another smaller one underneath it.
Yeah.
So it's like eventually you'll get to a point where there's no more dolls. So here's hoping. I think. Pretty sure that's how that works.
Yes.
That would be weird.
So after creating awareness of it, the next step is now stopping it in the moment, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And then maybe trying to tell yourself a little bit more of a positive story if you want to continue the story path. Because it's really hard to like adapt a new, I'm going to call it a personality trait or way of being, right?
Habit, maybe?
Habit, thank you. Right from the jump start. Because it's so easy for us to fall back into the old patterns of behavior without repetition. And so if it's more difficult for you to start creating the newer positive stories in your head and seeing things in a different light, or finding a way to navigate different angles of where you're at in whatever situation, my recommendation is just start small. Start with the first thing, awareness. And if you practice, oh, I just had a thought. Oh, I just had another thought. Oh, where'd that thought come from? Over and over and over again with every actionable thought, I guess. Actionable in the sense of like thinking towards that action, right? Or acting on thinking towards that thought. It's a hard one. Then hopefully you'll start to create a pattern. So for me, just becoming aware of my thoughts allowed me to be able to verbalize that I'm having those thoughts in the first place. And so I would say one of my other favorite things in helping with overcoming this is verbalizing and communicating. Like I've communicated to you, I'm having this thought right now. Now I know that it's coming from somewhere. I'm working through identifying that it's coming from this place.
And I loved what you did as well, because you asked and you stated, I would love to hear your thoughts on this.
Yes. Yes. And then pause.
Yeah. Waiting for that feedback, being open to receiving that help, that guidance, that outside perspective. Because when we're in the middle of it, it is sometimes really hard for us to zoom out and step out of that storytelling state.
Yeah, it is. And one of the other things she did during that, after I asked that question, is I gave her space to answer. And then she asked me, are you sure you want to hear the answer? Like, are you up to hearing what I have to say? And that allowed me to be able to be like, do I? and then I was able to identify, yeah, actually I do.
Because honestly, it's not always like feel good responses necessarily.
Well, exactly. And so that way you can kind of help work through, I can't quite judge if whether or not the person, especially if the person's a little confused that's asking that question to you in the first place.
Or it could be a triggering conversation.
Right. And that's allowing this now communication pattern of, I want to make sure that your walls aren't like completely up. Your defense mechanisms are not fully in place before I actually deliver my real communication back to you. And that's important. I think that's extremely important. Now, granted, you and I have developed this,
quite the rapport.
right? Quite the rapport. Reading the body language between the two of us, or the way we move our eyes, or, raise an eyebrow, or whether or not we're actually laughing.
The inflection in your voice. Yeah.
Exactly. And it's, I guess, what do you call that? Reading the room. That helps quite a bit because we are so familiar with one another and so in tuned with how we are. So it is a little bit more difficult when you're in a situation with somebody that's a stranger, somebody that you don't have that kind of a rapport with.
Or have a pattern of walls go up, defenses go up.
Right.
That's makes it a little tougher for sure.
So give your conversation and the words that you use a little bit more care and tenderness for those individuals, because you don't know all the history.
There's definitely a way to deliver the information that's not just being a complete asshole.
Dude. You ever have one of those moments when you're talking to somebody and they respond to you and the response is such a jerk way and you just have that like dog confused head tilt moment, but it's with more of that, are you serious? Intention, like head tilt. And that's your only natural response is a body movement of like, really?
Like, ew.
Or that's what I always say. When somebody says something really jerkish to me, I respond normally with, ew. It is my favorite gift for anyone listening to this. If somebody says something to you and they don't ever feel like they're in the wrong normally when they say it to you, if you respond with, ew.
They really take a moment to rethink.
Yeah.
So creating awareness.
Yeah.
And looking for outside perspective if we can't garner that ourselves, working to kind of stop the storytelling in its tracks, and then learning to write the story that you actually want.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, absolutely. Because when you start to create the story that you want, I believe that that is assisting you in manifesting the actual story you want.
And when you're thinking about the story that you want, you're actually thinking about how you can make that a reality and how you should present yourself to make that probability of that better story come to life.
Yeah. I was shuffling for our collective card reading earlier, and when I did, I was like, you know what? I got the 3 cards for our reading today, and I haven't looked at them, but I was playing around with the book, and I decided to use the book like the card shuffle, right? And what was returned to me, or what I landed on, the first page I landed on was just like the break page for like messages from your guides and ancestors, and I was like, really? And so I was like, okay, let me try that again.
Take a break.
Right. It was like,
take a pause.
right. And it was like, but
you didn't get the message, Syra.
no messages for you. But at the same time, I was like, oh, okay. So the next message to receive, or where I land next, will be a direct message from either my ancestors or guides. Almost like it was like, hey, just so you know, you're about to get this message from one of your guides or ancestors. And then the next one I got was magic. And part of what the book was saying was looking about your inner power, your inner source. And I was just like, oh. And then I'm having these thoughts. I do have the power to communicate and ask a question if I need help navigating these thoughts. And that's part of our own personal power. That's part of navigating this beautiful thing that we call being humans, and navigating, this emotional sense that we can tie ourselves into at any point in time in the given day. And it's so easy for us to get wrapped back up or, veiled back up into whatever previous stories we've ever told ourselves. It's so easy to fall back to that.
Oh, for sure. I mean, again, we've got decades of practicing those negative patterns.
Yeah.
Give yourself a break and some grace. Like, it's going to take some time. It may take decades. It may not, but it may take some time. So practice patience with yourself.
Oh, that word. That's like now the 4th time that word's come up in the last 24 hours. Yet again. I tell you, that's the story. I think this is like my mission here.
Do you remember on the last episode? The patience and letting go?
Oh my gosh. I tell you what.
I thought, or the way I interpreted that blank page was actually clear and calm your mind. And prepare for the message to be received.
Given that pause.
Because, I mean, when we meditate, or when we're trying to connect with our guides or source or, higher self, if your mind is running wild, it's going to be a lot louder than any messages that you receive more often than not.
That's so true. Because, honestly, when I was having the thoughts that led us to this conversation today, I have been on a go all day long with no breaks, no pausing between thoughts at all. And so that was my first time having a sit back and, oh, okay. Because Because you get kind of starked by like, a blank page. And you're like, that's not what I'm supposed to land on. Hold on. And it's like a quick reset. A reset of your thoughts.
So it was exactly what you needed in that moment.
It is every time. Every single time. Sometimes you just learn those a little bit later.
And I was just thinking about like when you're trying to catch yourself in that, becoming aware stage, how sometimes that awareness doesn't occur until after the fact. And so a lot of times, especially at first when you're trying to practice this. So in those moments, utilize self-reflection, review what you did and what you would have preferred to respond like. And think about how that looks and feels if you were to actually emulate that person that you want to experience.
Yes.
And then you just practice from there.
That's the best way to reprogram or relearn anything is by practice.
I wish it was as easy as flipping a switch, but it's not.
There's very few people I've ever known that were like, you know what? Today, going forward, I'm going to listen to all the thoughts that I have, and I'm no longer going to let anything from my past serve me, period, ever again.
I mean,
like, whoa.
The mind, like I said, is like this slippery, fickle thing. It can like weasel its way out of the suppressed corners of your mind and find its way into it is your thoughts.
Yeah.
So, I mean, like you cannot avoid it.
Oh, brain.
Well, brain is the physical representation.
It is.
But the mind.
The mind. I'm following along now. Okay. Oh my goodness. So, you ready?
Yeah, let's go.
Well, we're going to jump right on over to the collective card reading. Okay. We're going back to the Kyle Gray deck of Angels and Ancestors Oracle cards.
And first card of the day is Arrow. I could not read those R's. I was like, Arrow.
Well, what's funny is that I think you and I both leaned in and squinted at the same time. We were both like, wait, what?
So it says Arrow, surround yourself with protective energy. And on the card, it's got, a bunch of sacred geometry in the background. Very, very light. But I think that's what is it? The Tree of Life?
Uh-huh.
I'm going to just,
yeah,
not the cube.
The flower of life. Wow, it dawned on us at the exact same time. Amazing.
All right, so in the background, it's very pale. I don't know if the viewers can see it, but it has etchings of the flower of life. And then on the card, it kind of looks like a dream catcher with an arrow, a large arrow pointing up through the center, and then several arrows hanging down from it. And it kind of reminds me of the tattoo that you were considering getting, and like a compass as well. So it has, I don't know if, I guess it represents maybe the different directions, potentials.
Yeah. Which is so interesting because that's literally the thought process that I was having with the tattoo drawing that I had designed. And we'll throw up an image here of my etch-a-sketch of a drawing that will not
really
look
good
like...
etch-a-sketch.
Oh, thank you.
But it's not an etch-a-sketch. It's just a sketch.
It's just a sketch.
Oh, the 80s, 90s toys.
It's so beautiful. They were so much fun. It's my favorite toy.
Really?
I loved that toy.
The etch-a-sketch?
Yes.
Huh. Learn something new about you. That's not common.
That and the Rubik's Cube.
Really? Did you ever beat it? Like,
never.
It?
And that's why I loved it, because I could never solve it. I know.
So you've always loved a good challenge.
Oh, geez. Is that what that is? Great. Okay, universe, I'm done. Stop it. Stop it. Oh, okay. So from the book, Arrows, surrounding yourself with protective energy. The message in the book is going to say, surround yourself with positive people and experiences and environments that make you feel safe. Call on your angels, guides, and ancestors to bring you protection. I don't want to read the whole thing, but I feel like that was quite... Let me keep going. Arrows have long been reversed as symbols of protection, as many native peoples would use the bow and arrow as a weapon of defense. When an arrow appears in meditation or dreams or an oracle reading, it's a sign you need to protect yourself and what is important to you, because not everyone has the same intentions as you do. This does not mean that people are intentionally wanting to hurt you, but they could be careless in their choices and actions, and this could affect you.
Well, I think this kind of relates to allowing the mind to run wild too.
Yeah.
Because in a sense, we are wanting to protect ourselves from the repeated history from our past.
Yep.
But at the same time, we're wanting to protect ourselves from recreating the history ourselves. And then even wanting to create something that we feel safe in.
Isn't that amazing? Because if you're thinking about like how you're training your body, you're training your cells, your memories, everything has like a database to it. And if you tell your database, I don't want that, I don't want that, I don't want that over and over and over again, then it'll start to like build upon that and say, oh, something kind of reminded her of that. So let me go ahead and now generate this auto response of here's how to not have that again. Right?
Rather than saying, I want this.
Right.
You're focused on the don'ts.
Right. But yeah, no, this is a great card for our conversation earlier.
Oh. But I'm still feeling like maybe the intuitive side that's not included in there is still being aware of all the possibilities.
Yeah. Yeah. In that compass format. I do love that.
Second card. Ooh, Medicine Guardian. Be open to healing information. This is a cool card. So this masculine, didn't mean to clap there. It's like a masculine angel, and he is like beautifully green. So not his physical body, but his angel wings are like this emerald green. And behind him is also faded in the background, the flower of life.
Oh,
He is holding, I forget what it's called, but it's the symbol for medical professionals, the snake wrapped around the stake thing.
gotcha.
And like a little cup. I don't know if he's actually stirring a concoction, getting ready to pass along some healing medicine. I don't know what that symbol is at his chest. I think that's his heart chakra. I think that's why he's green.
Oh, that's cool.
So there's like a little etching of it. Looks like kind of like a jewel.
Right in the center of his chest. And that's awesome recognition for the heart chakra and the healing, because this is the Medicine Guardian. Be open to healing information. I really do feel that because of literally our conversation this whole time and all the thoughts that are running through my head and that I'm being aware of and trying to process a different...
and being open to receiving feedback, whether that's from your guides,
Right.
higher self, me.
Which is a healing process. It's healing the things that have harmed you in the past that are causing you to think about how that's affecting your present. And so it's a really beautiful message here. Listen to what is coming up within you and what is being shared with you by trustworthy others in your life. Pay attention to healing information.
Wow.
Dude. Okay.
Well,
Okay.
all right, universe. Thank you, cards.
That's absolutely breathtaking. I honestly did not expect that. And what's also interesting is that the arrow card is on page 118 of this book, and the Medicine Guardian card is on 108.
Ones and eights. I like too that this kind of refers to information as being healing. Like so much of our healing is reliant on like our Western medicine practices, which is like pills and treatments and things like that. When we're in a time where we're doing a lot of deeper diving into mental health and the effects of our state of mind on our physical being. And so I love that this is really supporting the idea of looking deeper within our emotional self and seeing how we can heal areas there
Yeah.
and look for that reflection outward into our physical body.
I mean, it does such a wonder on not only your spirit, but your physical being when you're not staying stuck in those moments. Because if you're tense in a thought and you start creating the story and then you make yourself more tense or more emotionally exhausted, then it just perpetuates from there until you have an aha moment or an awareness moment
Or a let go moment.
a let go moment or a patience moment, apparently. So there's that. Card number 3.
Card number 3, the Lord card. Take charge with authority. Take charge with authority. So this guy, he looks kind of like a Viking hunter to me.
Yeah.
He's got like the crown of antlers. Is that like a Celtic symbol on his chest? I'm not 100% sure. He's got like a staff, and it looks like they're animals. Like it looks like sheep in the background.
I think so.
Either that or fish heads.
It's interesting.
Rams? I think it's a ram.
Oh, those are rams.
Okay.
Yeah.
So he's got rams in the background.
He's got the life staff.
Oh, that's what that is.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, the symbol for life and on a staff, the end of a staff that he's holding.
So again, relating back to the beginning of our conversation, we're trying to take charge of the story that we're telling ourselves.
I also like that he kind of looks like he looks like the Elven King. Mm-hmm. Right? That's the Elven King vibes that I'm getting. I'm really interested for anyone watching this. The symbol on his scarf or on his cape.
That is. Yeah.
I'd love to know what that is.
That's why I was asking. I wonder if that's like a Celtic symbol of sorts.
I missed that part. My bad. I was staring off into the mist of the vines. So
it's in a triangle, which says like the Trinity.
Mm-hmm.
So physical, mental, spiritual, taking authority over ourselves, responsibility of ourselves, and where we allow ourselves to go.
I love that. He definitely has this very like, sup, like I speak the truth of life kind of.
Still gives me Vikings vibes.
Yeah, definitely. It's like Elvian Viking vibes. Let's see. Message from the book says, don't be afraid to take charge or use your voice. Be strong. The Lord is the consort of the lady. That's so funny because I was about to say earlier, Lord and Lady Wimverse. The Emperor in the traditional tarot, he represents an authoritative male who isn't afraid to lay down the law. But this doesn't mean he is angry or chauvinistic. He is self-possessed, reliable, and ambitious, a man of honor who has earned his place in society. Very interesting.
It still feels Viking.
I'm down for the Viking.
So looking at the spread, Arrow, the book, says protection. We say probabilities in picking your own direction. Recognizing that when we pay attention to our thoughts and the patterns of our thoughts, the stories that we tell ourselves, we can actually provide some of our own healing.
Yeah.
By going deeper, by understanding the source of those patterns and working to create new ones and create new stories. So that leads us to taking charge of our story, being an authority over ourselves, body, mind, and spirit, and where we want to go with ourselves. Like, what do we want to experience?
I'm also curious, is there a ram in astrology?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Aries.
Mm-hmm. Wonder if that has any correlation to it.
I mean, I know like with Aries energy, the ram, it's very headstrong, stubborn. These are just keywords. Doesn't mean that people that are Aries always express this way because there's so many other variables in a chart.
Right.
So stubborn, headstrong, I don't know if focused is one, but very wanting to move forward and maybe some aggression, but aggression isn't always a bad thing. It can be like, I'm taking this project head on.
Yeah.
So drive, there we go.
Driven.
That's a better word.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Nice. The Lord is really giving off that driven vibe, if you ask me. What a fun day. Yet again, recording on a day that we don't normally.
What a fun episode.
What a fun episode. Right, true. Yeah, the day's been a little wild. Not in the good kind of wild.
Alrighty, y'all. Thank you so much for joining us and for being a part of our community and our journey. And don't forget that we want you to subscribe and like and get notifications. So don't forget to hit the bell and the whistle and the thumbs up and all the little buttons.
I'm just gonna throw you off on every button that I push. No big deal.
We also have social media, so you can check us out at Love Always Self on TikTok, Instagram, and Facebook. We have a website at lovealwaysself.com. You can also find our Amazon store on there under shop. You will be able to find these cards. If they're not on there, they're also linked below in the show notes. So you can also follow that Amazon link. Yes, we do get a little bit of kickback there. Not a lot, but anything helps to keep supporting us doing this work and putting out this content. And so we really would love for you to share it as well. Share it with your friends because we also want them to be lifted up too.
We really do. And it does help us. It helps us a lot. It helps us keep making these videos and audios and whatever else. So thank you for supporting us in any way that's possible, even if you're just hitting that like and subscribe button.
And on that note, we hope you have a wonderful rest of your day. And don't forget to love first,
love last,
and love always.
Bye.
Hey, listener, thank you so much for taking the time to be with us in this moment. We hope you enjoyed today's episode, and we look forward to our next connection.
Don't forget to like, subscribe, and follow to stay notified of new content from Love Always Self. If you have any questions or topics you'd like for us to discuss, please hit us up on any of our social media platforms linked in the show notes below.
I'm Karista.
And I'm Shira.
And until next time, remember to love first,
love last,
and love always. Love Always Self podcast is meant for entertainment purposes only. We do not make any warranties about the completeness, reliability, and accuracy of the information presented in this podcast. Any action you choose to take upon the information in this podcast is strictly done so at your own risk, and we will not be held liable for any losses and damages in connection with the use of our podcast. Any and all medical concerns should be addressed with a licensed healthcare provider, as well as any questions that may be derived from the information discussed in this podcast.